Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Trading Week Wrap-Up. My name is Trader Merlin. Cheers to all you. Happy Friday. A good day for me on many fronts. Massive closure for some of my personal stuff, and I'm looking forward to just amazing things. So, what do I get here? Jefferson's Ocean, a little whiskey for today. So, cheers, everyone. Hope it is a great week, and let's get the show on the road. So, if we look at what happened out there today, I think at least the big story for the weekend for me is what's happening with Russia and the Ukraine. There's a lot of talk right now about this brokering of a deal between Russia and Ukraine. And of course, that had an impact on crude oil today as well, because if we get a peace deal agreement there between Russia and the Ukraine, and the Europeans sign off on it, and the Americans and everybody is okay with it, that means that oil should start flowing a little more freely, more supply in the marketplace, and therefore we should see crude oil prices drop. And lo and behold, let's start with crude oil since we're on that topic. You can see here that, there's my crude oil. Actually, we talked about it when it broke down below that upper yellow box, getting down below 64.60, that we were most likely going to head down to this lower box. We actually went deep into it today, 50% into that demand zone. The low price today of today's candle on crude oil was 62.77, and the bottom of that zone is 62.17. So it'd be interesting to see if this will hold here. 63 would be a great entry price. I did not sell any puts today. I'm just a little cautious going to the weekend. Again, I'm not 100%, but we're getting there. We're getting back to my normal. I just need to shrug off some stuff, as Taylor Swift would say, shake it off, and give a little, just get rid of that bad mojo that I got going on right now. And we're working on it. Things are looking pretty good. Things are looking up for me. Feeling good, doing the happy dance, feeling the flow. So is Russia and Ukraine feeling the flow? Well, I don't know. Let me do a poll here real quick because I'm curious to see what you guys think of all this. Let's start a poll. Will we get a peace deal this weekend? And now when I say peace deal, I'm referencing the Russia and Ukraine situation. So there's your poll. It should pop up into your chat box right about now. Curious what you guys think about that one. You know, and there's no right or wrong answer. For me, I feel like we keep hearing about, oh yes, and then oh no, and then oh yes, and oh no, and then Trump will put some pressure on him saying, hey, we're going to sanction you even more, and 50% tariffs on India because they're touching Russian oil. And it's this really, it feels like a game of bully ball, right, where you're just kind of throwing punches and pushing back and forth. So if you guys quickly do it, I'll try to wrap up this poll real quick and give you my take on it. So come on, I only see how many people have voted on this thing? Let me get in here. 16? Come on, we got, that's 1/4 of who's in the room right now. You guys can do better than that. Come on, 17, 18, let's do it. All you gotta do is click a button, just click. What do you think, yes or no? There's no right or wrong answer, folks. There is no right or wrong answer. Just click that vote. When we get to 20, I'll stop. There we go, we're at 20. Okay, just because I wanna keep going on with the show and not spend a bunch of time on it, I will end the poll right now. Okay, 80% of you said no peace deal this weekend, and I'm in that same camp. I feel like there's just too many moving parts. I can't see the Ukraine saying, okay, well, we're going to give up this area and this area and this area, including Crimea. I just don't see them relinquishing all that land at the demand of Russia. Of course, President Trump will be putting pressure on him, and we'll see what all the different, communities and countries say about it. But personally, I don't think that this is going to end up being a deal. I don't think it will. So what does that mean? Well, unfortunately, I did not sell puts on crude oil today, or USO, as I was intending to do. I kind of regret that. I've just been busy and dealing with stuff. So I didn't get a chance to do that today, but I probably should have, because my gut tells me that we're going to see a bounce out of this zone over the weekend, as it's a no deal, and maybe even a little bit of escalation there as they're kind of going, nope, not going to do it. And we'll see this thing pop back up. Steve says, if Ukraine gives up a bunch of land, where will Russia stop next? They want Poland back, right? And I think that's what a lot of analysts are saying is like, okay, well, if Ukraine gives back all this land, then what about other countries, right? Are you going to go in there and bully yourself in there too? So I just don't think it's going to happen, which means most likely we'll see some heavy talk next week from the president about extra sanctions on Russia, going after China because they're buying Russian oil. Same thing with India, and adding on extra tariffs there because of that, and using the whole tariff card as a chip for, manipulating these countries into doing what they want. So ultimately, I do think next week you'll probably see a little bit of a rally here in crude oil as the realization comes up that it's not happening, right? It's not no deal going through. Now, unfortunately, I forgot to change some of the text on my slides because I was rushing to get all this done. So let me fix this very quickly so you guys you'll have no clue what I've even done when I finish this one. I'm going to just call it data centers. There we go. Data centers. Okay, so the next piece I want to discuss. Obviously, we could talk a lot more about that. Wasn't too long ago, Trump was saying Ukraine was the aggressor. What happened with that? Look, with Trump, one day it's one thing, and the next day literally could be the complete opposite. And that's just, that's just the way it is. We have to accept that and be ready for it, which has created some great opportunities for our markets this year, has it not, Steve? It's been pretty volatile. We could crush India's economy. I totally agree with that. And I think India knows that. Not that they're not impoverished already, but there could be some problems. So let's go to the next piece here, which was a really interesting one. We've been talking about AI and how there's this huge push for AI. We did a show a while back called Going Nuclear, which is really addressing the need for more energy to power these amazing, just monstrous AI centers. Elon Musk is spending, I think, $18 billion, if I'm not mistaken. You've got Intel spending tons of money on AI. You've got Microsoft and Apple and Amazon and Google all spending billions and billions of dollars on data centers. They need power. And as Oliver puts in the chat, Oklo was one of the ones that came out at the forefront of our liking. So is SMR. OKLO. There you go. That's been doing absolutely fantastic. I mean, really, really nice rally. I think when I did the Going Nuclear show, I can't remember when exactly it was. I think it was back here in like December of 2024 when Oklo was at like $19. Now we're up at 75. SMR was another one. There were a couple others that were, a couple other big names in this NewScale Power, but all of these doing pretty darn good. Granted, NewScale or SMR having a pretty significant drop over the past week or two may create a buying opportunity right around 35. But yeah, I'm with Glenn. It says nuclear to the moon. I think nuclear is going to be a booming industry in the United States. If you have not followed Elon Musk on X, you should, even though he goes off on crazy rants. One thing that he's been addressing, which I find very interesting, is how much solar energy collection China is doing compared to the United States. Like they are massive with their solar power collection. And ultimately, he who has the most power wins. So nuclear may be something that helps us kind of bridge that gap there. Yeah, or uranium plays, if you're looking at nuclear, certainly you. I don't know all the uranium plays because it's not my area of expertise, but Energy Fuels, there's your you. And it's still relatively cheap at like $9.55. But they've all been doing really well. And again, it goes back to the comment today about data centers. So Meta signed a huge deal, one of the largest private equity deals, $39 billion for a data center in Louisiana. Pretty big. And I guess they'll start selling debt against that. This is underwritten by PIMCO and another company. But $39 billion for just a data center in Louisiana. Great. That brings in jobs. That helps the economy. I think that's pretty good for the overall economy. But it speaks volumes about the dominance of companies like Meta, like X, or that's not even publicly traded, but a private company like X, looking at things like Apple and Amazon and how they use AI going forward. This is certainly going to be a major win-win for them as they build out these data centers. Now, I have a question for myself, which I don't quite know the answer to, and that question is, they're all rushing to build these monstrosity giant data centers that are, bigger than Costco warehouses. At what point do we get to the level where they go, hey, we've got too much data center? I think that there's this scramble to get as much as possible to accommodate all the future demand that's going to be rising. I know most of us here are using AI in some capacity, but at what point do they get too much capacity, right? I don't think it's now, but is it a couple years down the road? And I think that'll be a very real conversation that will be coming up on the conference calls of some of the earnings announcements for like Meta and other companies spending big in that AI space. Let's go look at the Magnificent Seven today because that was a big fuel. Here's Meta, only 0.98% move up for Meta, but honestly, the chart still looks awesome for Meta, even though it's hesitated over the past week or two. Your big leader today, no surprise, we talked about this yesterday, Apple. Right, Apple basically greasing the palm of President Trump and going to get around a lot of the chip tariff the extra chip tariffs that may be coming into play here soon, and that could kind of save their not save their business, but certainly help them in their bottom line and kept boosting things higher and higher. But yeah, we mentioned this, I believe this was on Wednesday when they made that announcement of $100 billion in U.S. infrastructure, and on top of another $500 billion over the next few years. That certainly is, paying politicians out, in this case, paying the president to candy coat things for you going forward. Win-win for them, great. And if you're an Apple shareholder, awesome, fantastic. This will alleviate a lot of the uncertainty going forward because he's basically buying favorable treatment from the President of the United States. Let's see. I'm sorry, we got a whole bunch of different things here. China's opening over 100 new coal-fired power plants this year. They're just going nuts for energy, right? Yeah, China's building 150 new reactors in the next 15 years. That's crazy. Wow. That's a lot. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but if they're building 150 new reactors in the next 15 years, Steve, real quick, if you can, look and see what is America building the next 15 years. I doubt we'll come anywhere close to 150 reactors, and I think the main reason for that is most likely going to be regulatory. Now, maybe President Trump can work with the EPA and say, hey, we're going to remove a lot of those restrictions and regulations and red tape bureaucracy that you have to adhere to build these reactors. But I'll be honest, as a citizen of the United States, I don't know if I would feel that comfortable fast-tracking a lot of these developments, especially with nuclear, right? This has to be done right. We don't want a 3 Mile Island or Chernobyl again. That could be absolutely catastrophic. So to me, China can circumvent a lot of that. They can just go through it. Let's see. They actually believe the alternative power plays as opposed to us, whereas windmills are bird killers. Yeah. Well, windmills are bird killers. I guess when I was in Vegas, it was funny. For those who've never driven into Vegas from California, there are these solar collection plants, and they have all these mirrors pointed at a big tower, and basically they cook. And I guess the locals call them tracers, and the tracers are like birds will fly across that solar collection field, but when they get hit by one of the lights, they just vaporize, and you get this little ghost trail of birds. So yeah, I'm sure they kill birds, but do they kill more birds than cars and trucks that are driving along the road, and a bird comes and smacks your windshield? I don't know. I think there certainly is some truth to the amount of damage that windmills can do and death that's from it, but we're not banning cars for killing all these insects, and if you don't believe it's killing insects, just look at the grill of your car. Mine is a murder field. All right, so we got data centers on my list. We've got Russia and Ukraine, and that was it for the big stuff that I had. I wanted to walk through just the updates of trade that I had today. So obviously my Amazon, that expired worthless. Actually, I'll bring up the trade sheet here. Yeah, here's the updated trade sheet. So my Amazon expired worthless today. My MicroStrategy expired worthless today, which is great. I kept that $4.70. I sold the 410 calls against my position. So as you know, I still am long 600 shares of MicroStrategy, which is great. I'm fine with that. I sold options expiring next week, and those expire on the 15th. 410 strikes, collected 520. And here's MicroStrategy. There's your MicroStrategy. I had the 400s this week. We'll bump that up to 410. There you go. So I think I'll be okay with that one as well. If I get out at 410, remember, half my position was purchased at 410, half my position was purchased at 385. So overall, this would be a pretty nice gain. And I've been collecting premium for the past few weeks on this one. So all in all, MicroStrategy could be a pretty nice trade for me going forward. And that's SMCI as well. SMCI had a pretty significant drop today, which made me a little nervous. I do have that $40 strike, which is way down there, expiring next Friday. And that still is a 1% trade. So all in all, pretty good. What other stuff that I have today? I didn't make any other trades today. Very light for me. Keeping it very, very light. Kenny says Microsoft is going to rent out the 3 Mile Island, which is being rebuilt right now. Should be up and running in the next couple years. Yeah, I can't remember which company it was. I might be SMR or Oklo, but one of them is looking to rekindle reactors number 1 and 3 from 3 Mile Island. They're building those ones out. So it's not Microsoft that's doing it. Microsoft's working with another company who is looking to retrofit and bring those ones back online. Yeah, and those would be Microsoft's basically power plants. Who knows? Hopefully, I'd rather see them built from scratch, honestly, Kenny, right? I'd rather see a brand new power plant built with current construction, new rules and regulations in place. To give you an example, I don't know when 3 Mile Island was constructed. I'm sure it was a long, long, long time ago, and I'm sure they're updating things. But if you're just going to kind of reopen, reactor number 1 and reactor number 3, it's kind of like me going to the dentist last week. Years ago, dentists had these primitive tools and they were scraping the heck out of your teeth and just, it was archaic and barbaric and painful. Nowadays, they've got all these crazy tools, far more efficient, much faster, lasers and all kinds of crazy tools. Dentistry has come a long way. So has nuclear power, right? As far as storage, disposal, containment, all that stuff, I think needs to be done from the ground up. I would think. Maybe. That's what it is. Thanks, Big Ab. Yeah, I knew it was one of the ones we talked about, Constellation Energy, CEG. We had that chart up here a while back, but yeah, Constellation Energy, CEG, is the one that's going to be opening 3 Mile Island. Thank you for that one, Big Ab. Can't find the number of reactors U.S. will add. However, it does say we had 104 in, I'm guessing 1998, and now we are down to 92. So we're shrinking. Yeah, that's due to a lot of EPA and protection environmentalist stuff, which I'm okay with. But I think maybe it's, if the pendulum of EPA is swung so far to one side, maybe we can pull it back, still keep the environment, the ecosystems safe, the animals safe, and get back into nuclear power. Let's be honest, what's China doing? They're probably just going, yep, we'll build it right here. All these people, it's fine, we'll build it, no worries. A little bit different with regards to control, oversight, protection, concerns there from China than it is here in the U.S. Steve said, I'd rather have nuke than coal. I think they can both be terrible, right? Oh, but there's clean coal, Steve. There's clean coal. I love the clean coal argument. Yeah, I would rather have nuclear as well. No. I do like trees, Big Ab. I would hug a tree. Honestly, the way I feel right now, I might actually go and hug a tree this weekend. But, both of them can be very bad. And I think it really is important that when they're constructed, that there's a lot of thought process put into how do we keep it as safe as possible? Because none of us want a meltdown. None of us. We also don't want dirty wastewater. We also don't want things to contaminate the sky, the air, and pollute. So, yeah, both of them have their bad side to them. But from a clean perspective, other than the waste, the disposal of waste, nuclear is going to be much cleaner overall. We will lose the AI race if we don't build faster. Dr. Falcon, I agree with you. I don't know if we'll lose. We're certainly going to fall behind. I would argue that we are at the front of the AI race right now, but we have to get these data centers up. We have to have the power to power it all, or that we're going to start to see some issues down the road, right? I think we all agree with that. So, Trump's been talking about drill, baby, drill. It'd be interesting to see how he changes his stance on that if it gets modified to, build nuclear, build nuclear, build nuclear. And it wouldn't surprise me to see that over the coming months where he starts to become much more pro-nuclear, because I know he's pro-coal. But, pro-nuclear probably a better way to go fast. I was watching the nuclear site being shut down the last couple of decades. Okay. Oh, I thought you were talking about me being a tree hugger. But you know me, Big Ab. I am a tree hugger. In the sense of I like trees. I definitely think the environment should be protected. But also I think that we may have gone too far in protecting things, The careful thought and consideration should be done for all of that. Let's see. Okay, so we got that. One other thing I wanted to bring up today is this. When Doves Cry. I know. It's a Prince song. I'm like, Merlin, what the heck are you doing talking about Prince songs on your show today? Prince! Goodness gracious. Well, the reason I put When Doves Cry is, in the last meeting, you had Bowman and Waller were dovish. Meaning, Bowman and Waller were like, we should cut rates. And they dissented from the other members of the FOMC. And by the way, Margaret, the video you sent on Twitter, excellent. Loved it. It was great. Hilarious. And it's so true. It's a great video. If you go to X, you can look at, I might go to my feed and you'll see it on there. Margaret sent it to me. It's a pretty good one. But you also have member Bostic, right? So Bostic is kind of dissenting as well by saying, look, I think we should have at least one cut by the end of the year. I think one cut will be fine. So there's more of this Federal Reserve members kind of leaning towards that cut here soon. Again, I am in the camp of I think it'll happen in September. Well, it really depends on what our inflation numbers look like, right? Next week we have CPI and PPI numbers coming out, so we'll see how that goes. But you also have member Daly. Daly has also been said in some press conferences this week, look, we've been doing what we think is right, saying the same thing and same thing and same thing. He goes, I don't think we can continue to say the same thing anymore, which leads me to believe that he is looking at lowering rates. Now, what does that mean for us? Well, we go out here to the forecast for what's happening in September. You can see right now there's an 89% chance of a 25 basis point cut. So looks like we're getting rates cut here in September. But what about the end of the year? By the end of the year right now, there's a 48% chance of a 50 basis point cut, so 2 rate cuts by then, and a 41% chance of 3. So right now it looks like 2 is the number for the rest of the year, but boy, yeah, it's a tough spot to be in. Now, Margaret says, does he have to follow the EU? Absolutely not. He can do whatever he wants. But if we go back to, let me bring up the calendar here without scrolling through and burning your eyeballs with scrolling. I will apply a filter here. We'll keep all those, remove those, and we'll just put central bank and apply that filter. And the reason I'm doing this is just to see what other banks have done, right? Next week, we have a rate announcement from Australia. We'll go to the rate announcements this week. Of course, the British pound lowered by 25 basis points. And notice that they have been consistently lowering. They'll lower, they'll wait a meeting, and then they'll lower again. So basically, every other meeting, they're lowering their rates. And they start off back here at 5.25, and now they're at 4. So they've been drifting lower and lower and lower. What about other countries? Let's see what we have here. Let's go to Canada. So Canada's kind of been stuck at 2.75 for the last 4 meetings, but notice they were at 5% and they're aggressively going down. We're really the only one that's as high as we are with regards to rates. So yeah, most of the other central banks have been cutting. Let's get to the EU here, which was on the week of the 22nd, and they kept their rates the same too, but notice how aggressive their cuts have been. Going back into March of last year, they were at 4.5%, and now they're at 2.15. So they've definitely been cutting rates. They paused this most recent meeting, but when you look at what the U.S. has done, let's go back to our numbers, which of course was last week. Oh, sorry. No, it wasn't August 18th. It was here. Where am I? There we go. U.S. The 4.5%. We've been, for 6 meetings now, staying the same. And I've been very vocal about this. I think the right thing to have been doing is exactly what they have been doing, which is holding rates, right? Keeping it steady just to play it safe and not know. However, we're pretty high up right now compared to the rest of the world, right? 4.5% is significant. It does make sense that we should start to cut rates going forward. And I have not updated my picture here. I apologize for that. I do want to show you this one last little piece and I'll move on. Right here on the left-hand side of my screen is a great table. Oh, man. And you can see the U.S. right now is 4.5%. The U.K. is 4%. Australia is 3.85. New Zealand's 3.25. Canada 2.75, and the euro 2.15. And of course, Japan is 50 basis points or less. So we are paying the most right now, which should be pretty good as far as people buying government bonds, right? Because you're getting a higher yield, and that also is a little bit of a factor in the reason we are seeing that dollar rally here recently. Now, it is definitely drifting lower. And if you pay attention to what happened politically today, off the top of my head, I can't remember the guy's name, but Trump is appointing a new guy to the Fed as one of the members is stepping down. That member is very in the camp of cut rates. So he's trying to stack the deck at the Fed to cut rates, which will probably happen anyway, but he's trying to stack that deck. And interestingly enough, him and Besant, I forget the guy's name. Somebody you can actually type in a chat because you probably know what it is. But Besant and this new guy that Trump appointed kind of work together. They're both in the camp of a weaker dollar. So we should be upset that they're trying to weaken the dollar because that's your purchasing power being eroded. And that may be one of the catalysts as to why we're seeing this dollar index drop. Thank you, Jimmy. Yeah, Miran is that guy. So we'll see how this transpires. But right now, it does look bullish for the dollar just because the trend has been up. But if Moran gets in there and Besant has his way, he's been very weak dollar is his policy. He wants to have a weak dollar policy. The more people you can stack on the Fed, they're looking to cut rates, lower the value of the dollar. That could push us even lower. And that would be bullish for equity markets. That's right. Equity markets would probably do fairly well if we saw that. Eric says, you definitely sound more like yourself today. I definitely feel better. I've been very transparent with you guys on a lot of stuff. Something happened today that was, it was wrong. It was hurtful. It was a bad thing that happened today, but it actually was really good in the sense for me, for closure, just to be done with this chapter of my life completely and chop it off, be completely done with it and move on. So yeah, I'm definitely feeling better about it. Yeah. What's your drink? This is Jefferson's Ocean. I like Jefferson's Ocean. It's a good, they've been aged in barrels on ships at sea. So here we go. All right. Hey, Steve. Good to see you. I don't know where to put it. I need a coaster over here. My ice is melting. No, I'm not going to delete her number. I'm not that bad. It's, in an emergency situation, if she needs to reach out, I'll always be there. And thank you, Thomasina. I love you guys as well. It's you've been very supportive in all this. It's been a very, very trying time, I will say. But, you live and you learn. The good thing for me is a majority of my family and friends have said, this is for the better. That wasn't the right individual. It wasn't the right thing. There's something better. And it's just hard for me to agree with that, but it's good. I will be a much happier man. Just need to move forward, as you guys have said. So, keep your eye on this one. This is going to be something I think for the tail end of the year is really going to be an important discussion is what's happening with the dollar, right? Where's that dollar going? Is it going to continue to get weaker and weaker? If it does, all-time highs are in play for sure, right? All-time highs for sure. And speaking of all-time highs, man, we are so darn close today. I'll start at the top and work our way from the top to the bottom. NASDAQ 100 today. Great day, 0.93. Most of it because of the Magnificent Seven, right? Magnificent Seven was the big catalyst. Thank you, Garfield. I hope so too. I just got to go out there and look for that individual. And I'll tell you guys, I know you all know this. I am awful at going out there and looking for that. So, not I'm looking, but I just need to, go out and be more social and do more stuff. We'll get there. So it's not a record Big Eb. I mean, it's a record close. Yes, it's a record close, but the all-time high for the NASDAQ was not breached. That all-time high goes back to the 31st. That 31st number was 23,845, and today we had an intraday high of 23,767. So close to an all-time high. But yes, a record close, Big Eb. Yeah, you are correct there. And been just a phenomenal week, and thank you for the Magnificent Seven. Now, what does the QQQ look like, says Margaret? Well, let's drop on the triple Qs there. Oh, is it all-time high? The all-time high on the triple Qs was 574.63 and 574.77. So yes, all-time high today for the NASDAQ on the QQQ. And we should probably look at that anyway because remember the futures are discounted, right? The futures are discounted. Hey, go for it, Thomasina. I am more than happy with that. It was funny. So I had a conversation with my father during all this, right? And obviously you got to talk to your parents or your loved ones and kind of let them help you through it. And I talked to my dad. I'm like, I don't understand you, Pops. My dad's a realtor and he's got all kinds of connections. He knows tons and tons and tons and tons of people up in Northern California. And I'm like, at my age, you have a son who I don't mean to toot my own horn or sound arrogant or cocky or anything, but I like to think I'm intelligent. I'm extremely creative. I'm extremely outgoing. I have a zest for life. I am successful at what I do. I love doing this show. I have so many things I like to do. And my father has never once in his entire life said, hey, I got a girl at the office you should date. Or I know someone. I don't know. Are there fathers in the room here? How many fathers have hook their son up on a date with someone that they met, or daughter even, right? I would think that this is almost be a parental thing. Like if you meet someone that's so special, let's say you're at the gym or something and you're working out and there's just this guy who's been really helpful and he's training you and you're like, hey, you're a great guy. My daughter would you like to hook up? Like not hook up in an intersexual way, but just go on a date or something, like meet my daughter. To me, it really seems like parents should help there. You never did that for your kids either? Wow. Tofi. If I did that, my son would never take the bait. Interesting. My mom does it all the time. Unfortunately, I lost my mom at a young age because I think my mom would. I think my mom would have been the person going, hey, you know what? Sarah's really nice. You should ask her out. I don't know. It's just something that perplexed me the other day. I'm like, why? Of all the people, my dad is so good. All the girls I thought to set my kid's son up with turned out to be psychos. Well, that will happen. It's called arranged dating. Oliver, I'm okay with arranged dating. There'd never be a point where if someone said, hey, I got a friend that you should go on a date with. I can always go on a date. It doesn't mean we're going to get married. It's just friends. Yeah, Margaret, church isn't my thing. Unfortunately, church is not my thing. Mike says, I asked for referrals for a new lady after my wife passed 8 years ago, and after 7 years, I got one referral from her friends. Hopefully, hope so too. And by the way, Mike, I hope that referral worked out for you. Right? Hope that referral worked out for you. All right. Anyway, sorry, that was a side tangent there. Just a bizarre one. I know. Bizarre one. I know. All right, how much time we got? All right. I got a couple minutes left here. I know it's a great place to meet people. I'm not a very religious person, and I have no problem with religion, folks. None at all. I think religion's absolutely fantastic. It's just not... So I grew up in a really weird religious family, but I know everyone's telling me to go to church. Jeez. Yeah. We'll see. Maybe. Who knows? You never know. My number one rule is you never date a girl from any place you don't want to give up. Yes. The good news is all the places that I took my girlfriend to were foreign to her, so she will probably not be visiting my places. We voted so church it is. Oh, maybe I'll just go to. I'll go to the mosque. I'll go to the mosque instead, or synagogue. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. I try to stay that neutral path. All right, let's get back to our top 7 here before we go down a religious aisle and I start to alienate people with comments. I don't mean to do that. Good. And I do that every day, Steve. I think every day I do that. I look at every day as self-worth, and every day we have something of value to give the world and friends and people around you, and I think that you have to feel good about yourself and how you walk on this planet and try to do the right thing. So, I try to do that introspectively every day, and it's part of one of the things I love about where I teach. When I'm teaching, trading, or investing and things like that, I also deliver that. I don't know what the right word is, but that desire and passion to help people be better at what they do. Whether that's just living your life or being a trader or investor, I think we can, the better we live our lives, I think the better we influence people around us and they live better lives and things get better for everybody as that circle of contact grows. So, yeah, absolutely. And one thing I haven't done, a lot of people are really into meditation, telling me I should try meditation, but we'll see, maybe. Right now, it's whiskey. All right, so let's start at the bottom here. Bitcoin, I'm really surprised to see Bitcoin languish today. Right, 1% slides today, 116,955. I really thought with that announcement yesterday, we'd see some nice follow through here. Really surprised, to be honest. I thought this was going to actually rally hard today, and instead we got a down day of 1.02%. So that was kind of surprising to me. But all in all, it's not that bad. It is a bearish Harami pattern. For those of you that see that, that is a bearish Harami pattern because it is within the previous day's green candle, but nothing to worry about there. We already looked at crude oil. I'm bullish on crude oil next week. And unfortunately, I did not make a play on it today. I should have, but I do feel like you're going to see a bounce next week, predominantly because of the peace deal that most likely, in my opinion, and according to the 80% of the people in the room, will probably not come to an agreement on some peace deal between Ukraine and Russia. I just don't think that Ukraine's going to say, we'll give all this up. Not going to happen. Gold today, though, another story. There you go. There's another all-time high intraday and an all-time closing high for gold, 3,491.3. That's great. We've kind of popped out of that sideways range, although it's still not making a brand new high, even though it tiptoed above it today, but not closing above that all-time peak there. We'll see what happens next week, but great news for anybody holding gold long. We talked about the dollar up 0.22%. A little concerned with the appointing of Marine because he wants to have a weaker dollar. He wants it to push lower and lower and lower and lower. We'll see. Russell 2000, as I work my way up to the podium here, nothing to say. Honestly, other than Monday, this week was terrible for the Russell. Other than Monday, it did nothing for 4 straight days. Notice the weird action. You've got these small little real bodies here. I'll zoom in really big. Small real bodies every day, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and long topping and bottoming tails. That tells you people just don't have a clue. Total indecision there on what to do with the Russell, which was a significant about face from what we saw on Monday, which is a big rally there. So, looked great. All right, 10-year yield spiked today. Continued its rally, right? We had a really nice rally on Wednesday, and then it kind of gave it all back. Right now, 0.87% gain, 4.285 is where it's at. Podium time, that was bronze. Here is your silver medalist. S&P 500, 64.13 was its close today, up 0.74%. Not at all-time highs, but a great week nonetheless. If we look from where we opened this week to where we closed, you have a 2.5% gain for the week, which is great. Fortunately, my account did a little better than 2.5% this week, which is great. I love it. I like having a little bit of better gains. The last couple weeks I've had some losses, and now we're recouping those and doing well. NASDAQ, as we talked about, all-time highs, looking great. Now, other cryptos, one thing that was asked in my class this morning was, will this trend with Ethereum continue? And you look at what's going on with Ethereum, this is the dark horse. A lot of people have been saying Ethereum's trash, it's garbage, it's going away. And I have had my concerns with Ethereum because they haven't upgraded their system. They haven't done what's called ZK rollups or scalable solutions to speed up transactions. However, what they have done is they have added in more layer 2 solutions. Now, these layer 2 solutions, for those that don't know what that means, it's you have a blockchain that has certain parameters in construction, so it has constraints. Right now, Ethereum can only do about 15 transactions per second. It's limited, so if it gets really busy, it can't handle the volume and transaction costs go up significantly. So what they do is create these layer 2s. Layer 2s are basically a transaction layer on top of the blockchain where they batch together hundreds, if not thousands of transactions, and they report to the blockchain as one transaction. So now I could take, let's say, 10,000 transactions, batch them as one, send that down to Ethereum's blockchain, and I've now saved a tremendous amount of space on the blockchain, and I have a lot more scalability. So these layer 2s like Arbitrum, Optimism, Polygon, Matic have all done fantastic things for Ethereum. And also, I think one of the big important pieces here is in the Clarity Act, there was a write-up about which different currencies are considered mature. So mature cryptocurrencies are ones that will probably circumvent any new regulations or laws that are implemented by the SEC. And there are only 3 of them. Bitcoin, Cardano, and Ethereum are the only 3 that were mentioned in there as maybe being mature, which would now allow them to get past all this regulation. And I think that's part of the reason why you're seeing Ethereum pump. I love it because Ethereum is my second largest holding. You know, you look at what Ethereum has done since April, and I know a lot of people going, oh, the market's doing great. Yeah, well, check out Ethereum's pop. Ethereum is up 174% since those April lows, whereas the equity market, if we go back to SPY, just for fun, equity market, as great as it is, and I'm not going to dead low, I'm going to wear it there, S&P's up 30%. So, love it. Steve Wolf says, with ETH's popularity, I wouldn't be surprised if Trump makes them the preferred one to use. Well, you know, we're going to have to keep a close eye on this because what's going to happen in the near future is you're going to hear about the NASDAQ, the Dow, or the New York Stock Exchange, and other financial institutions adopting different technologies and using different technologies to use for payment rails, etc. Ethereum is a pretty big candidate there for a lot of them, even though it doesn't have the scalability on its blockchain as a record-keeping layer. As long as you have layer 2s, you can do that. So the NASDAQ could create their own layer 2, right? And that's what NASDAQ will probably do. The NASDAQ will create a NASDAQ app, it's called a DApp, a DAPP, just decentralized application. NASDAQ will probably create the DApp, and that is exclusively for the NASDAQ. They control all of it, but that batches transactions and just reports them down to the base layer on Ethereum. I think that's probably the route that they're going to go, and we will see. Time will tell how this all pans out, but yeah, I think Ethereum looking absolutely fantastic. It's been a great week for Ethereum. You know, the other one that I was really excited about, which has not been anywhere near as performance, is Solana. You know, Solana is a great blockchain, has tons of power, tons of speed, but it's just not traversing higher. I mean, right now, Ethereum is shocking everybody. And I'll tell you, as someone who's been in this industry a long time, and I follow a lot of experts, most of the industry experts are like, Ethereum's done. Ethereum's dead in the water. And I was starting to think that there might be some truth to that because they're not upgrading. But these layer 2 solutions and this grandfathering in, if you will, from the regulatory perspective could be huge for Ethereum. Okay, that's enough for me. I didn't spin the old hourglass today, but I'm going to keep on moving on. So let me remove this so we can take a peek at what's happening out there on Monday. As you guys know, Scott McCormick will be the guest on Tuesday, not Monday, but Tuesday I'll do it by myself. And then I'm also going to bring on Justin Krebs. You guys know Justin Krebs is a financial planner. He runs all kinds of financial services. I wanted to ask him about trust. I want to set up a trust for myself to put all my assets in to shield them and protect them, a layer of liability. And I may bring him on. I know it might not be the normal topic for the show, but I'm interested in the topic. So if there's other things that you would like to know from a financial planner's perspective, right? What would a financial planner do? Or, Stuart Traderman. No, it's just his brother, Justin Krebs, not Stuart. No, Stuart won't be on. If there's other things you want me to ask or people you want to bring on, just let me know. You can send him in at tradermerlin@gmail.com. Steve says, Ethereum is actually working on quantum resistance to safeguard the network against. Yep, absolutely. And honestly, Steve, every project right now is looking at that. Right? I think everyone is looking at that like, okay, quantum computers coming. The belief is that something like Bitcoin will just switch to, instead of SHA-256, they'll go to SHA-512. And that will thwart any directed attack from quantum computers. And then, we'll keep doubling the encryption algorithm, and that will protect it. But other technologies use different tools. So, ETH uses something called ETH hash. And yes, they are working on making that quantum resistant, which will be great, be fantastic, right? That means it's going to be secure for the future, for indefinitely going forward. All right, so let's go look at your economic calendar for next week. Starting off on the 11th, there's really not a ton of big stuff happening early in the week. You can see basically you got the Cleveland Fed inflation expectations. Yawn, snow, boring, but it's okay. We will we'll just ride that one out. Later in the week, we do get a lot of major stuff, retail sales, CPI, PPI, etc. And there's really nothing on the earnings front for Monday, but let me check it anyway, just so we can have it. I think we have Barrick Mining and Franco Nevada, I believe, are the two big ones that come out on Monday. And that's this week. Let's go out to next week. Boom. And 250 companies reporting on Monday. Oh, you got GoPro. That company's almost gone. So you have Barrick Mining, and Franco Nevada are some of your big names. Oklo also. I know we talked about that today. Oklo is coming out with their earnings on Monday. That will be after market close, and we'll probably talk about that one because it could very well be a popcorn trade of the day. OKLO, right? Oklo. You look at what's gone on with its price recently. Certainly up in the $75 range, having moved from 20 all the way up there. Could be a big move. Weekend plans? What are my weekend plans? The good news is I've got some very good friends who are trying to get me out of the house, be more social, because that's the only way I'm going to meet people. And I'm going to do some pickleball this weekend. I'm going to go to an escape room this weekend. I might go to the fair this weekend. So it should be a fairly active weekend. That said, that'll do it for me. I'm going to wrap this up, get out of here, and hopefully have a great evening. Again, I thank you guys all for your support and matchmaking if it's out there. If you got matchmaking, let me know. But thank you guys all for the support. I hope you enjoyed this week's show and dealing with my emotional roller coaster that I've been on. But we're fixing it. One step at a time. We'll be good. I will be careful, Steve. I've never played pickleball before, but my buddy's an expert at it, and he's been trying to get me to play for a long time. So I will do my best to get out there and have some fun and meet some new people and have a great weekend. So again, I hope you all have a great weekend. If there's something you want me to discuss on next week's shows at any time, just email it. TraderMerlin@gmail.com. Some of you have been sending a bunch of comments lately, which I do appreciate. Thanks to that, whether they're supportive or also just talking about things to talk about on the show. I do read them all, and certainly down in the comments on YouTube as well. So whatever you guys have, send them on in. Hope you have a fantastic weekend. Cheers, everybody, and I will see you on Monday. Take care.